in
Participants one second. Wait. Nimeshangaa.
Weh, then la
Ndio. Sana ri.
Oduogo sadi kawuono. Anyalo dare gotieno ko. Nada golimbe te coach. Ng'ano dare gotieno. Kwani nyaka nyoro ndira opini. Nyocha panjo dar machiegni. Orocho ko. Ng'ano an konfi.
Mbona nimekuona?
Kelele mtaaja maana simple ya nini?
Yani mtu bwana. Mimi sitaki nakapanga mapema buku ni. Nandiko kamora mora. Por matar nama tanga lagi. Garka.
Ng'ombe zinyamaze bwana.
HIV
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael, and we'll be learning this unit together. The unit is KUC123, and I can see most of you have joined the meeting. So I want to welcome you so that be part of this. So today we'll do the bit of the introduction. It won't take so much, but there's a lot to be learned from this section for the first week. Now, first things first, the reading material for the week has been uploaded on the check on it there. You can download the reading material, the notes from. You can read it at your own convenient time. Every week I'll be uploading the item for the week. So you can only I'll be doing that about 2 to 3 days to Monday, before Monday, so that you can have enough time to interact with it before we can start the lessons on Monday, every morning at 8 a.m. So today is it's a different day. We didn't start at 8 as anticipated because of some unavoidable circumstances. But here we are, and of course, there's no loss, so we'll be enjoying the lesson. Now the course outline is also uploaded on the e-learning portal, and I hope you'll be able to interact with the course outline as well as the notes. But I want to upload the course outline first so that we can see what's expected. So let me just a minute, I get it. And I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so there you are. If there is any and then I'll respond. All right. In this course outline to the content, you get to know what's expected. So, of course, this unit is about HIV and other contemporary, some other emerging diseases and infections that are a threat to humanity today because of the changes in the climate. By all disease causing organisms mutating and changing, and so the threat is imminent. Just like the HIV pandemic, are things that are worth talking about in any. We are kept abreast on what is health and sanitation are concerned. So in this unit, you're going to be AIDS. We have other types of mention. And of course, we'll get to those topics. So we have the first week for introduction, this which was supposed to be and the history of HIV pandemic, which is very, very important to understand the history that have been achieved since AIDS became a problem. Text of HIV as we know it, 1982. Then week 2, you're going to do the biology of the virus, or the HIV virus. That is, it's called retrovirology. So you're going to learn a bit of that. Not the deep biological aspect of it, but just the overview. So to understand and then how it interaction, as well as the development of the treatment approaches that are currently therapy that normally depends on at interrupting the biological process of the virus in terms of the life cycle. What are the dynamics of just give me 1 minute, please. Good. You're going to look at now the dynamics of distribution impact. Okay. In other words, good morning to you. Oh, I'm party. No. No, I'm not mute. Yes. Oh. So now you can hear me? Oh, thank you. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. So we proceed. So I was trying to still explain what we have in the various weeks there, and so you did, and you are not getting what I was saying. So I've explained what we have in week 1, this of the pandemic, then week 2, mainly the life cycle, the biology of the virus, the structure, the life cycle, etc. Then transmission. Then week 5, the time we talk about any disease-causing organism like this virus now, or any disease for that, you must also mention about the immune system, because we have to fight any form of infection. It's important to understand how the immune system interacts with the virus. Of course, we know the immune system is such as the bacterial diseases, or trying to understand the nexus between the virus and the immune system. And then on the same week, we are going to look called co-occurring conditions, infections, in simple terms. Now, what about these? Here, we're going to look at those other diseases that once we have the virus, or the virus is in our bodies, then it becomes a field day for them. Okay, they can now easily attack the body because of the immune system having been compromised, and so these viruses are now able to attack the cells easily. So we're going to look at those kind of diseases called co-occurring conditions that normally follow up the effect of the virus. The impact of the virus on the immune system gets easy. It becomes easy for them to attack the good. Then you know, the STIs right? They are sisters, because where we have HIV, there are higher chances. In fact, if we have any other STI in any community, in a particular community, if we have an STI circulating in a particular community, STIs, sexually transmitted, go hand in hand. And of course, the STIs of the HIV, they normally impact transmission of each other. HIV impacts transmission of other STIs. If you talk about something like syphilis, gonorrhea, etc., they also impact or influence transmission of HIV. So it's important to understand that correlation, the nexus between that. So we're going to look at the STIs broadly. Of course, you know most of them, but now we're going to give them a different approach in relation to HIV. Then we have doing a cut. Week 7 will be doing a cut. Now this cut will be covering week 1 to week 6, and it will be done online, and it will be multiple choice. Questions, so you can prepare for that. It will take basically 1 hour. Then we'll embark on the item for week 7 and the home-based care. Here we're going to be looking at the care of the person that's be having the virus. Care. Of course, we'll have the person be taken care of at home, so it becomes important to understand the basics of home-based care, especially when now the disease transforms to the tail end, where now we call it AIDS. So you know, a lot of things here are important to understand as far as that care is concerned. Then the basic care, what's involved in care. For example, how do we handle a person who is now developing even maybe other complications? Okay, so that week is very, very important as far as care is concerned. I hope everyone is hearing what I'm saying. I hope everyone is getting. Then week 8 is prevention. And so it's just prevention alone, and prevention has got so many things. We are going to discuss very many aspects of prevention. Of course, they say prevention is better than cure, but what is involved in prevention of this kind of disease? Take some water. Thank you. We're going to look at things including some circumcision vaccination, mention something about the development of the AIDS, but ongoing process. Of course, look at even the challenges involved there. Then we're going to look at the BCT, you know about that, ABC, abstain, okay, being faithful, use of condom, transmission. We're going to look at that, transmission prevention. Then pre-exposure prophylaxis, that certain antiretroviral drugs can be taken before engaging in any activity called pre-exposure prophylaxis. Now, this is where we have a class of drugs that can be taken. Of drugs, about 3 or so. And there are higher chances of contamination. For example, somebody has had contact that is being suspected, then no. The treatment, the therapy, what is involved in that, as well as nutrition in relation to the virus. We have key populations. We want to segment the society to example, the question of HIV, okay, or those who are transsexual, HIV and the old, okay. So we are going to look at the virus in details as per the population. I know you may think that it's the same as aspect of there's a slight difference on why it's important to stress on the particular populations. For example, the virus and the youth. What do you need to know as far as that is concerned, and something that may be important for your safety as an individual. Then we have week 11, that is medical, psychological, and social aspects of the virus. So this is more of a social thing, not so complicated stuff there. Then we have the number week 12, that's policy, advocacy, legislation approaches. So week 13, we have Cat 2, covering week 7 to week 12, covering week 7, the content of week 7. So you can prepare for 2 cards unit that will simply go and do the card without proper reading. If like that, then you are mistaken. Now, week 13, we say this card covering week 7 to week 12. Then after the card, we'll be doing through with the virus, with HIV. We'll now be looking at, remember the unit is HIV and AIDS and other emerging infections. So here is where now we are going to have other emerging infections. We are going to have a look at the emerging and re-emerging infections. Of course, I know you know even coronavirus is a and re-emerging infection. So we're going to look, maybe there were once there, they disappeared, they are coming back. Simply new diseases coming up. There's a lot of climatic changes, for example. The microbes or disease-causing organisms become infectious. Okay? Very, very important. Then we're going to look at the zoonoses. That attack human beings and animals. Now, this class of diseases is very important to understand. Why? Because we interact with animals every other day. In fact, even HIV itself is rumored to have originated from some vertebrates. Okay? Even it was because of an interaction with animals in some live food market in China. So all those conspiracy theories, they may not be far from the truth. Then week 14, we are going to look at non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases are cancer, of course. Now, non-communicable diseases, these are diseases that are not infectious. What do I mean? They are those diseases that are not transmitted by an infectious particle, by either virus, bacteria, fungi, protozoa. You know, those microorganisms that cause diseases, they don't belong. These are things like diabetes, for example. Okay, hypertension, for example. Those lifestyle diseases, they are normally called non-communicable diseases in medical aspects. Then we have cancer treatment besides the other 9, because cancer is cancer, and cancer is even linked as much as it is. It may be non-communicable diseases, but there are a array of causes of cancer. Some microbes, e.g. viral. If you look at the human papilloma virus, it causes cervical cancer, right? Non-communicable diseases, because it can also be nicotine. Now, something on this, we may have in some cases, we might combine, or we might do 2 topics in 1 week. For example, maybe going up to, maybe the exam will have started, something like that, and we have to cover all this. So I would see, maybe at times you can even, if you could allow me, you could even schedule a class, maybe one Saturday afternoon, online, or can fix in the course of the 2 topics. You have to cover on everything before the exam. Okay? Good. So I think that allow me to go to week 1. I think, I hope you are enjoying the class. If there is any question that you can have that need me to respond, type it there. I will surely respond. Cool. But this occasionally could even meet physically. The number is not so big, so that okay. So I'm now sharing something else. week 1 item. Now sharing this one, week 1. Yes, now that's week 1 item. I hope we are together one more time. I hope we are together one more time. Some people are still joining in. Welcome them. All right, so you will get this from your e-learning system. You will get you will get this from there. I've already uploaded it. Get it and read it well. And meanwhile, like I said, week 1 is about the introduction. So we are simply introducing the virus, the HIV itself and AIDS. We are going to look at a bit of the history, and then public health and hygiene, because they are important for general well-being. So that is the topic. My stuff is okay now. Now, so the objectives for the week, we need to define and differentiate between HIV and AIDS, very important. That's the history, briefly, of the history. And in the history, you're going to look at also the key milestones in the treatment and management of HIV and AIDS. In other words, what has taken place since the discovery of the virus and AIDS that we can boast of. Key milestones, very important. Then global statistics. We're going to look at the global statistics of HIV and AIDS, the latest. Then we're going to look at the effects of HIV and AIDS, where we have effects on individual, effects to the society, effects to households, very important. Then briefly, we're going to look at the basic concepts of public health and hygiene. Public health and hygiene, because in some way or the other, public health and hygiene, all these, they impact the transmission of HIV and AIDS, and even the treatment. So very, very important to understand that aspect as well. So this is the course content. I hope you are able to see. Now, this will allow me to put the reading mode. Let me put it big so that you can be able to read properly. Yeah, I hope now you can. Yes, I hope now. Yeah, I hope now you can see it. Good. So we have the introduction, definitions. We have differences between AIDS, historical review and milestones. So in the historical review, we're going to look at the 1980s, the 1980s, the 1990s, and the 2000s. Then we're going to look at the global statistics as at 2020, the new infections, then the impacts, then public health and hygiene. Okay. So now, for the introduction, HIV in full is human immunodeficiency virus. That is the expansion of that abbreviation. And it's just, I'm not going to read word by word, but just to explain what you expect on that page. It's simply to understand that when you talk about HIV, we're looking at that virus that affects the immune system and it weakens it. It affects the immune system of human beings and it weakens it. And then once it weakens the virus, the immune system becomes too weak to withstand other infections. And of course, when that happens, then you have a stage called AIDS, in full acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. A situation where the immune system has become so weak, and so other diseases have come in, causing a condition called AIDS. And this one normally happens at the tail end of the HIV infection. At the tail end of HIV infection, is when we have the AIDS stage, the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome stage, a stage in which now the body has got so many other diseases, opportunistic diseases that have cropped up as a weakening of the immune system by the HIV. Okay, so this is still expounding on that. It's still expounding on that. And so here in this page 5, you simply need to understand that when you say that HIV affects the immune system, then basically what we need to understand here is that from your basic biology, I hope you are all biologists in one way or the other. You understand the immune system, and you know that in the immune system we have the white blood cells or the leukocytes. The white blood cells or the leukocytes, which are normally the soldiers of our bodies. So the virus targets white blood cells. It targets specific white blood cells. We are going to know which one in particular. It's called the CD4. So it attacks those white blood cells and then breaks them down. Okay? And that is when we say that the immune system has been compromised, and so other diseases are now going to be cropping up. Okay? Now, the AIDS, I said, is the last stage of the infection, and of course, we've expounded on the acronym. But now in that acronym, further definitions, if you said acquired for A, it means that the disease is not inherited. It's not inherited. We get it as we grow. It's not genetical, right? It's not in our genes, so it's not inherited. It's an acquired disease. Then the immune, so it affects the immune system. Then D for deficiency, the immune system is not able to protect us against diseases. So inability to protect against disease. Then S, syndrome, a group of symptoms or illnesses that occur as a result of an infection. Okay? Good. So that last statement, AIDS diagnosis can be made on the basis of clinical symptoms or blood tests. Of course, that one later. That one later. Good. Now, onto this page, the differences between HIV infection, and AIDS, those three. So HIV is the virus that causes the infection. HIV is the virus that causes the infection. When we talk about HIV infection, maybe this needs to get clear. We have a situation where the virus has entered into the body, it has been acquired, and so it is now infecting the body. And what does that mean? We have different stages of infection. One is called seroconversion. This is where the cells, the white blood cells, are being converted to have the HIV virus. To make it simple to understand, when we say that seroconversion, of course, sero is from the word serum, but that's not the basic meaning here. When we talk about seroconversion, we're simply saying that, remember, when the virus attacks the body, maybe just something on that, it will target the white blood cells, specifically the ones called CD4 cells. Once it attacks them, it makes them part and parcel of the DNA of that virus. Okay, it goes and then fixes itself to the DNA of that virus, and so the DNA of that cell that is attacked, and so that cell that has been attacked by the virus, we say it's seroconverted, which means it already has some element of the virus. Then asymptomatic infection is the next stage. This is a stage where now the person that has his or her white blood cells having been converted to contain the element of the DNA of the virus will now be showing some no symptoms. All right. It's called, another term for it is called latent phase. We're going to look at that later. But basically, at this stage, the person appears healthy and there are no symptoms at all. Then we have symptomatic phase. Now this is where we now start to see difference. The skin texture, for example, alopecia or loss of hair, for example, and so many other things that you can say, maybe this person is sick. And then finally, when the person now begins to wear out completely towards the terminal end of his or her life, we call that AIDS. Okay? So these are stages of infection, and so I hope you've understood the basics of that. Now let's go to the history. Let's go to the history briefly. Let's go to the history. So here, just a minute. I hope it's listening. Just allow me to return some. All right. So we go back. Now, the pre-1980s to post-2010s, that's what we're going to look at, the history that we're going to look at. Now, I'm going to pick on key areas. This is a very complex area, and I'll try to summarize it. So that we can be able to grasp what is expected here. Now, the pre-1980s, the conspiracy theory here, or the origin, is that the virus came from the DRC. Okay, the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and that was around 1920. Okay, from which animals? From chimpanzees. From chimpanzees to human beings. That is the widely accepted theory as far as the origin of the virus is concerned. There are other things. Some say, oh, it's manufactured in the lab. Some say, oh, maybe it was from a gorilla, baboon. But now the widely accepted theory is that it crossed over from chimpanzees to human beings around 1920 from the DRC. You know, the DRC, and we have lots of pans and gorillas from the Congo forest. You maybe know briefly of that. And so, due to the hunting and interaction with these animals, the viruses somehow crossed over from chimpanzees to human beings. Okay. A few days ago, I was looking at I was watching some documentary in Al Jazeera about the origin of the virus. And so there was a whole, almost one hour discussion about the Congo, the DRC, the previously Zaire, the DRC and the virus, the link between the DRC and the virus. You know, that land of great musicians like Kofi Olomide. This is where they say the virus came from. Anyway, but up around 1980s, very little was known about the HIV infection. As far as the numbers, very little was known. But at around 1970, there were now sporadic cases of infection that were now being reported. I mean, some consistency in patterns of infection that were being considered that maybe there is a specific kind of disease that is linked to certain things, you know. Now, this is around 1970, and now the sporadic cases of infection. Then by 1980, a lot had been put in place about the virus, and even the distribution as far as the epidemiology is concerned worldwide. And so by around 1980, it had spread to very many countries like North America, continents like North America, South America, Europe, Africa, and even Australia. Okay? That is pre-1980s. The 1980s. So from here, you can see that the highlights are in the years. So for there's a specific thing that came up, and for you to understand this area well, simply pick the important thing and then link it to the year. For example, in 1981, and in case where the years are repeating themselves, then you know it is as per the months. Maybe if we have three, like for example, you can see here the last three bullets. The three bullets from down. You can see 1983, 1983, 1983. It basically means that 1983, the first one here, was in earlier months, maybe March, and maybe the second one here could be June. The third one here could be late that year. But of course, there are specific months, but that may not be necessary as far as the information we want to get from this is concerned. Now, we are not going to do this course. We are going to give it that technical approach, like those doing medicine. We are doing it as a general course, and so you're not going to be dwell so much on the nitty-gritties of everything. But all the same, in 1981, there was observation of Kaposi sarcoma. Kaposi sarcoma, you can see there. This is cancer of the skin. This is cancer of the skin. So what about it as far as this area is concerned? It basically means that it was being noticed that those people who are having Kaposi sarcoma were gay. Those people who are having the skin cancer were gay. So people are, the medics, the clinicians were beginning to notice this. Then 1982, it was suggested by the US that the cause of severe immune deficiency condition among gay men was related to some sexual activity among them. Okay? Remember, Kaposi was from gay men, and so now conclusion was being drawn that perhaps it is because these guys are gay. So gay-related immune deficiency condition, 1982. Then 1982, again, the CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control. This is a worldwide US-based organization that tries to control diseases all over the world. It termed the infection AIDS. Now, this infection that was being seen from the gays, the consistent infection from the gays, was now being termed AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. For the first time, it was used in 1982. Very interesting history there. Now, by 1983, it was now being noted that, after all, it is not just a disease for the gay, but a disease for heterosexuals. That is to say, I'm on bullet number 4. I hope you are moving with me. That now the female partners of the men that were having that disease, now called AIDS from 1982, even their spouses or their partners were now also being infected. 1993 still, a new retrovirus called lymphadenopathy associated virus, that is LAV, that could be the cause of AIDS, was discovered by doctors at Pasteur Institute in France. So at Pasteur from the word Louis Pasteur. Now I hope you link from the Pasteur Institute of France. The doctors discovered that. So this AIDS that we are talking about is caused by a group of viruses called retroviruses. And how do we call the virus? They called it LAV, L-A-V, lymphadenopathy associated virus. Late 1983, in late 1983, the scientists and clinicians had discovered all the root causes of the virus, of infection. The major root causes were now laid down, and of course they excluded causes that, areas that transmission do not occur. For example, things like casual contact, food, water, air, or surfaces were now ruled out by the CDC. They are now narrowed down to the major causes of the virus. Then, the last item on the page is the discovery of the first commercial blood test. By 1985, there was first commercial blood test that was now licensed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. This blood test is called ELISA. We'll look at it further when we do diagnosis. ELISA test. In full, for those who know, for maybe those who are in SANS failed amongst you there, this is called enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. It's a diagnosis technique that involves the assessment of the interaction between the antibodies and the antigen. Okay? The fight between the immune system and the virus. So it's normally called antigen-antibody kind of test, or what we call serological tests. That one later. But now, as far as this is concerned, simply in 1985, it was now discovered and licensed by the FDA. 1985 still, the International Committee on the Taxonomy of Viruses now reclassified the virus that causes AIDS and called it human immunodeficiency virus. What are we saying here? Now, instead of calling that virus, let me go back a bit, calling it LAV, lymphadenopathy associated virus. By the way, just something. Allow me to go back here a little bit. Why did they call it LAV, lymphadenopathy associated virus? It's because for those who are newly infected by the virus, the first few weeks, they had swollen lymph nodes. They had swollen lymph nodes at the groin, the swollen lymph nodes are at the groin. So that's why they call it lymphadenopathy, swelling of the lymph nodes associated virus. But now this committee called International Committee on the Taxonomy of Viruses, by the way, viruses are classified by an organization called International Committee on the Taxonomy of Viruses. They're charged. This is a committee of scientists, of top scientists, virologists that normally classifies new viruses that come up in our world, all right? So in 1985, late 1985, they reclassified the virus that causes AIDS and called it human immunodeficiency virus. So the first time HIV was mentioned was in 1985. AIDS is 1982, but HIV is 1985. I hope you're following the history. Very interesting stuff here. Then 1987, first antiretroviral drug was discovered. It was approved that it can work. First antiretroviral drug. What was its name? Zidovudine. Zidovudine AZT. That was the commercial name. So this is the first antiretroviral drug. We look at the antiretroviral drugs and see what they do later. 1987 still, another form of test was discovered and licensed. Another technique for doing tests, and this is now called the Western blot test. The Western blot test. Now, the Western blot test, or the assay, is also another kind of antigen-antibody kind of test, or what we call serological test, but a more advanced one. as compared to the ELISA test. Actually, this test, the Western blot, was normally the test, a confirmatory test for those who've been tested positive by ELISA. If ELISA tests positive, then normally they used to confirm that actually it is really positive by use of what's called Western blot test. As for the biology and the chemistry behind the Western blot, not for us for now, all right? Unless you want to be a true scientist, okay? So this is a more specific antigen antibody test, kind of test. And of course, this was used up to late, up almost 2000. 1999, 2000 is when now the rapid test was now truly commercialized, that maybe reduced the use of such kind of tests. The 1987 late now, the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization confirmed that HIV could be passed from mother to child during breastfeeding. A very important thing here. Now, as of 1987, late 1987, only late 1987 is when the discovery that it can be transmitted from mother to child. The virus can be transmitted from mother to child through breastfeeding, not through the cats during delivery, not through the contact of blood during delivery, but during breastfeeding. That's when it was discovered that it can be transmitted from mother to child. Very nice history there. That was that was in 1987 by the World Health Organization. Now, 1988, the World Health Organization declared 1st December as the World AIDS Day. 1st December as the World AIDS Day. Late last year, here in December here, you guys were celebrating World AIDS Day here in this university. So there lies the history. It was declared in 1988. 1991 is the Red Ribbon Project. The Red Ribbon Project, of course, the Red Ribbon. Generally, when there is any campaign going on, as far as HIV is concerned, then you normally see the Red Ribbon. That's a small piece of ribbon that people put on their chest, to their clothes, etc. It's called the Red Ribbon. So this project was launched in 1981 by the advocacy groups of to show compassion for those who are suffering and for the caregivers or for those who are suffering from the virus. Launched in 1991. Then 1983 is the addition of pulmonary tuberculosis, recurrent pneumonia, and invasive cervical cancer to the list of AIDS indicators by the CDC. That is to say, now, in that year, the CDC added to the list of indicators of probable presence of HIV/AIDS. If somebody shows these indications, then it kind of indicates that that person could also be suffering from AIDS. So we have pulmonary tuberculosis, TB, pneumonia, recurrent pneumonia, invasive cervical cancer. 1994, approval of oral HIV tests. For the first time, non-blood test for the first time. Non-blood test for the first time. Where maybe simply from the small tissues from the mouth, the test could be done. That was approved in 1994. Then 1995, approval of the first protease inhibitor drug. The first approval of protease inhibitor drug, beginning a new era for highly active antiretroviral therapy. Now, let me expand on this a bit. When we look at week 2, when we're discussing the life cycle of the virus, you will see that the virus is majorly made of proteins. The virus is majorly made of proteins, and these proteins are very important for its life cycle. So that class of drugs, that class of antiretroviral drugs that are meant to disrupt the process of formation of the protein molecules for the virus. When the virus forms new viruses, and of course, you know, the proteins must be made, of course, through a process called translation. We'll come to that later. So now there's an enzyme that is responsible for that process of making new proteins for new viruses. It's called protease. From the word protein, it's called protease. Now this enzyme is the target of this drug. That drug was meant to target the functional enzyme protease, so that the protease does not do its work of making new viruses. And basically, all the viral drugs are generally meant to disrupt a process in its life cycle or stagnate an enzyme that contributes to the process of its life cycle. That is what that means. Okay? Then we have 1995, that's formation of the UN AIDS. UN AIDS is a branch of the United Nations that basically deals with HIV and AIDS. Just like UNEP for environment, UNESCO for World Heritage, UNICEF for children. So there is also UN AIDS that deals with AIDS as a subsidiary of the United Nations. Then we have 1996, the discovery of several things here. First, home testing kit, which you can buy and go with it home, like the kits that are normally being bought from the shops today. Viral load test was now also discovered that was able to tell to what extent is the person infected. How many virus particles are there in that person's blood, a millimeter cubic of blood, that is. Then the first, so there are three things here. I've said first is the first home testing kit. A viral load test was also discovered. Then the first non-nucleoside. The first and if I combine them this way, it means that they are around the same month. The first non-nucleoside transcriptase inhibitor drug was also discovered, called nevirapine. I will expound on that a bit. And also the first HIV urine test was also discovered. So 1996 was a lot of history here. First urine test, first home test kit, first viral load test, now possible. First non-nucleoside transcriptase inhibitor. Now let me expand on that because of the technicality involved. Like I said, the drugs that treat the virus, that manages the not treat but scares the virus, they are normally targeted at a specific aspect of development of the virus. Like this one now, the other one I explained was targeting the formation of proteins by targeting the protease inhibitor. By protease enzyme inhibiting its function. Now this one, non-nucleoside transcriptase inhibitor, NNRTI. A nucleoside is a nucleotide that do not have a phosphate group. Technical, right? Simply means, for those who understand basics of biology, if you have a nucleic acid, those things that make the genes, then the genes, of course, will make organisms, make proteins, and proteins make organisms, etc. Now, the genes made of DNA or RNA, the nucleic acid, that nucleic acid has got three components. One of the components is a phosphate group. So nucleoside is simply a precursor of a nucleotide. And so, for the nucleotide that do not have a nucleoside, is called a phosphate, is called a nucleoside. It's a stage in the development of the genetic material of that virus. So this drug was meant to disrupt the nucleoside before it becomes a nucleotide. Okay. I hope so you are picking something. Anyway, I know it's technical. Then 1997 is approval of Combivir. Combivir in full is simply a combination of antiretroviral drugs. Combination of antiretroviral drugs. But the way the drugs that treat viruses are normally having a suffix VIR, vir, for virus. So combivir, combination of viral drugs. So here, the first single dose, a single tablet. You know, before then, there were so many drugs that you're supposed to take. If somebody is sick, then you drink this concoction. So in 1997, they developed a simple tablet, a single daily dose tablet. It was called Combivir. It had got a combination of the several drugs that were in place at that time. And now 1999 is a question of statistics. It's just maybe showing there at that year how many people already infected. Now let me go to the 2000s. Let me go to the 2000s. I can see the number is going down. So some people are saying my time is up. Oh, time is up. So people are leaving for other classes. Okay, so in that case, we can suspend at the year 2000 and over, so that the people that are not there do not lose out. I can see many people are crying. So we'll have to squeeze. Next time we'll have 3 hours. On Monday, next week, we're going to have 3 hours. So ensure you're there, because we're going to complete this and do week 2. We'll have a lot to learn. And in those 3 hours, I wish everyone should attend. I wish everyone should attend, if possible. And the first weeks of this course are tougher. The first weeks of this course are a bit complicated. So we need to have it. So thank you for coming. Thank you for availing yourself. We stop there because of time. I can see many people are leaving. So we stop there. See you next week. See you next week.